and welcome to another episode. Still get shivers every time I listen to that or look at that. I love it. Welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers, and I'm your host, Dorothy Odell. Tonight's sponsors are Bonnie Herb, our doTERRA specialist. So be oily with Bonnie, and definitely for all your essential oil needs, get a hold of her today. You can go to www.beoilywithbonnie.com or simply give her a text at 810-414-0929. Also, we have, Jen Zahari's created No Way Out. It is a book about a woman, Faith, who's on the verge of ending her life following decades of feeling unheard and unseen and suffering from anxiety. Looking back on her life as she moves through her final day, she recognizes how much pressure she's put on herself at all times. She loses sight of her self-worth and confidence. Created is filled with emotions and a unique insight you don't want to miss. As well, definitely our amazing sponsor, Jen, with Stronghold Foundations Coaching and Consulting. With over 25 years of leading, mentoring, training, and coaching people, Jen provides individualized and business personalized support. So get in line with your best self today and give Jen a call. Go over to her calendar link and book your free 30-minute consultation today. As well, we have Camaraderie Rescue Mission and their summer raffle. It's a great way to help support our veterans, and definitely get your raffle ticket today. A $7,500 value, yours today for only $100. So I'm just super excited to bring on our guest today, Miss Vicki Blair. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dorothy.
Hello.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
It is a pleasure. And I have to tell you, folks, this lady is amazing. And maybe she'll do some improv later, but I'm not going to press her. I'm not going to press for that. But this lady can just on a dime, like it's hilarious, and she is an amazing storyteller. When Vicki and I met personally at a women's conference, I don't know, a couple months ago, sometime in May, I think it was. And when she shared her story, it was just like, I literally got shivers, and I'm not going to blow it just in case you decide to do it today. But I just got shivers when you were saying your story, because it was just so real. And not to say that what you weren't saying wasn't real, but it was just like, you had me. It's like, you really need to write your book. So I'm not sure when you're going to be doing that. But
I've been doing a ton of journaling. So that, I mean, the more you journal, the closer you get to a book, right? Because you're like, I might as well just write a book at this point, right?
So, exactly. That's what I did. I took all my journals and wrote a book. So that's basically, that's how you do it. So enough about me, though, because we're here for you. So tell our amazing audience who you are and what it is that you do.
I'm Vicki. Vicki Blair, and currently I'm doing quite a bit, but my main focus is my family. And outside of that, I work for Humble Design in Chicago, and we furnish homes for families coming out of homelessness. And I got that job because my coach that I'm working with told me that I needed to start a YouTube channel. And I was like, well, there is no way I am doing a YouTube channel. And so, of course, because she's so good, she convinces me to do this YouTube channel. And at the time, it was called Vicki Vidalia, but nobody could spell Vidalia. So I just recently switched the name. But anyway, and she said, if you do this, the doors will open. And I was like, well, there's no way. I mean, okay, whatever. The doors are going to open. Sure enough, my phone rings, and it's my friend Peg. And she's like, I saw your YouTube channel, and I have this opportunity for you. It's called Humble Design. I want you to come volunteer and blah, 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 blah. And you can't say no to Peg. So I volunteered. The first time I did an install and did a design project, I started working for them full time. I just couldn't. It was the most amazing opportunity to do something that was really creative, but also giving back in such a deep spiritual way. And I haven't looked back ever since. So that's one of my jobs. And I'm also training to become a life coach.
Nice.
And I do some theater on the side and different things like that when I have time. But with COVID, I've really put that on the back burner and started to focus on my YouTube channel and different things like that. So now it's called Thrifty Vicki.
I love
It's called Thrifty, you know?
right. Thrifty Vicky, I love that. And
Yeah.
I've watched a couple of your episodes, and you definitely love to cook too, right? So you,
I love to cook. It's in my blood, you know?
and this woman can make popcorn like no one's business. Like I still
I
haven't had popcorn as good as since I had it with you guys in May. So
It's super simple. It's actually on one of my YouTube episodes. I cooked with a friend of mine, her children, and we made popcorn together. So it was really fun.
yes, it's totally amazing. And so if anybody wants any tips on, even like you said, decorating or things like that, like you've got everything on that YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You've done such a great job with that, and you are so good at doing those videos and even editing them right on the spot too.
I do all that. It's crazy. Like on my phone, I have a little app, and and when I'm in that editing mode, I'm literally, my family can't talk to me because I'm so right brain. I'm so creative that when I live in that world, I'm lost. And I've been, I'm in my 50s, I'm like, I have to get back there. You know, there's no more excuses. I have to live a creative life. I have to find a way. And so that's my focus, is just staying more playful and getting into that world again. And also by giving back and helping others, and all of that can be really creative. So in some ways it makes me unstoppable when I get there. You know what I mean?
And that's why you're on the show.
Yeah, because, and honestly, when you invited me, I was like, why me? You know, I never looked at myself as unstoppable. And so after you invited me, I looked up the definition, and I was like, we're all unstoppable. You just have to figure out what makes you unstoppable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's so great about it, right? It's yes, we can get caught up in and thinking that we're not unstoppable, but then it's just keeping those consistent steps every day going forward. And is we all go through stuff, but as long as we keep moving forward, that's definitely what makes people unstoppable. And as long as you don't give up and there's air in your lungs, and there's always hope.
Absolutely. And I think you nailed it. You have to move forward. And I think even in some of my darkest moments, and I've overcome depression and a lot of different things, I always just knew to move forward, even if it meant just walking to the grocery store, or sometimes it's just getting out of bed, or sometimes and then if you can just keep moving, then something will change, and then life gets better, And I started working with a coach when I turned 50, and I just felt like I was stuck, really stuck. And one of the things that she really helped me do was find my inner child. And that was tricky and this was scary, and I didn't want to admit this to her, but, so I didn't know where to find her, right? And so I kept looking. I finally found her, and there was a place that I would always go as a child. And it was this little hole in the ground that would fill up with water, and I would play in it a lot. I always, after it rained, I'd always find myself over at this little place playing by myself. And so I found her there. But the problem was, for years, because I've been with my coach for almost 1.5 years, I couldn't see her face. And that really scared me. And then just recently, I saw her face, and the cool thing was, her face was my face as an adult. And so what I realized is I had to heal me. And that was, even though it's your inner child, it's still you. But the inner child really helped, because I could go back to a place where I felt really peaceful and safe. And And it was really weird the day that I went to find her, and she turned around and it was my face. It was so strange and so cool and so life-changing and spiritual and all those things. And I'm grateful that I found her.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful you found her.
Thank you.
Because the world is definitely a better place with you in it, Vicki.
Aw,
Seriously.
thank you. I appreciate that. I don't always feel that way though. I think, sometimes we forget that we're special, because we're so hard on ourselves. At least I am. The negative talk that goes in my head, it can talk me out of everything,
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you said that because I've interviewed over 100 people, and 100 people have told me the biggest thing they've had to overcome is themselves and their mindset.
Absolutely.
Of what goes on in between, in between their brains or their consciousness or even unconsciousness. And that's even one of the biggest coaches that coaches Xander Holyfield was on our show a couple weeks ago, and he said he still has to deal with that daily.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, so if he has to deal with it, why wouldn't the rest of us have to deal with it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I've and it's taken me 53 years to figure this out, but what I'm starting to realize is it's those darkest moments in our lives where we find strength. But if we don't look at it as strength, then we become a victim. And if you lived in that victim mode, then it's hard to move forward.
Yeah.
Because you're a victim. And so I went back just recently and I journaled those really hard stories. And one that comes to my mind that was so difficult was that in high school, I dated the captain of the football team. So stereotypical, right? And he was such a jock, and he was a jerk, and he was all those things. And he really was. I mean, he's a nice guy now, but back in the day, jerk. So he probably doesn't even remember he did this. And hopefully he's watching this because you did this. We broke up, and it was Carnation Day at high school. And you could order carnations to send to people in the classroom. So it was like red was love, pink was friendship, whatever. So they come to our classroom. They've got these big buckets of flowers, and they're handing them out. And I'm one of the last to receive these flowers. And he sent me a dozen carnations that he cut the flowers off. And so I received a dozen stems.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. In front of a class of 30 plus people. And the English teacher, I'll never forget this, she saw it. She looked at me and she's like, Vicki, come here for a moment. And she could see I was about to just burst into tears. And I can still feel it. Like I can feel myself in the moment where I got out in the hallway and I just ran as fast as I could out of the high school. I never back home. I never, ever, ever wanted to go to high school again. And after I journaled that story, I went and found my inner child. And we went to one of my favorite places, which was a rock that sat above this little lake that I used to live near. And I sat on the rock with her, and we created a raft out of the stems. And then we put all the flowers on top. And then we sent it out to all the people that have been harassed or hurt or challenged. And so that's, for the first time, I could tell you this story and feel strength. Because that really, really sucked.
Yeah. I hope he is watching because you're a douchebag for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't imagine, especially being that age, impressionable, in front of the entire class doing that. I mean, I was bullied pretty much from grade 2 on, so I get it. And wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, look at I'm shaking. It still impacts you, but so there's two things you can do. You can become that victim, which is where I've been sitting with that story for a really long time. Or I can send the flowers out to sea or to the lake and get strong. And so if you're watching this and you know who you are, I am strong because of you. So thank you for sending me a dozen stems in front of 30 people in a classroom in high school when I was most 15 years old and I was vulnerable and I was impressionable and all those things. Look at me now, I'm strong. That's the moving forward, right?
Right. Well, we gotta check this guy out and send him this video after.
I'll send it to him.
So what happened after that? Like, did you end up having any altercations with this guy afterwards, or?
He literally was so popular and I was so not popular. And so I just lived in that victim world and felt really I was bullied as well growing up and I just felt again just deflated, and it just took me down a notch and I didn't have the help to overcome that. So I didn't really overcome that story until just recently. So that's what happened. And so it's almost like how do we tell other people to find strength? Like how do you so they don't have to wait till they're 53 years old?
Well, and that's why we have this show, so that other people know they're not alone in what they're going
Absolutely.
through. And
Absolutely.
number one, and number two, if we can do it, it's just ordinary, everyday people, then so can they. We're
Absolutely.
because we're just at the end of the day, we're just two women out here sharing our story, so that
Right.
the world doesn't feel alone and feels empowered, right? And we've asked them to reach out if they need help. If you're one of those ones that are right now struggling with somebody humiliating you and belittling you and making you feel less than, then look both myself or Vicky up, look the show up, contact us, and we would be happy to connect with you. We've both been there. We know what it's like.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny because growing up I never dated. My dad had this standing joke, you can't date till you're 21 years old. And then I don't know what happened, but it was in my 20s when I started dating. And in those, taking from what happened to us when we were younger into those relationships, it's hard to trust somebody,
Yeah.
when you've been treated like that for a
Right.
long time, right?
Right.
And so,
Right.
it's taking those things that you learned, but knowing that not everybody is like the person that was mean to us, and things like that. And obviously you found your soulmate
I
because,
did. Literally 6 months later, I started dating my husband, Sean, and we've
I
been
love it.
together ever since. And we have a wonderful partnership and we are truly equals. And I learned so much from him. Um, and if I had stayed in that, if he hadn't sent me those stems, maybe I would have stayed with him. Maybe I would have gotten back together with him. Who knows?
Right.
Um, but I didn't, and I found Sean. So there's always light, if you keep moving forward, right?
Right. Absolutely. Light at the end of any tunnel. You could think right now that you're going through like this dark time and you don't think you're ever going to see the end of it. But I promise you, just keep putting that step forward, reaching out to
Absolutely,
people that can help you, and you will get through it.
absolutely. And
I
luckily
promise.
for me, Sean was very patient because I didn't trust men at all, and I dated him, but I just, kissing wasn't even an option for me. Like, I was like, oh, no, you don't. Like, I was just like hell bent on making sure that this was not going to be another situation where I
Right.
received dead stems. So anyway,
I can't
I don't
even
know.
imagine like who
Uh,
would do that. But anyways,
right, right. Well, and that's the thing is when you start to write down your stories, you look at it, you're like, who would do that to me? Like we all have those moments where something so terrible has happened, but we overcome it.
mhm.
We have to overcome it. We have to find a way to find the strength in the bad.
Right. Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, because I would have never thought that that would have happened to you. Absolutely never
Yeah,
thought that would
I
happen
could
to you.
tell. I have a lot of stories like that where,
Really?
oh yeah, let's see, junior high, lunchroom table. So I had a group of friends, and a lot of times I would forget to bring my lunch, and I never had any money. So I would go without lunch. And my group of friends were so mean, and they were always mean to me. And I just stayed with this group of mean people, mean clique. And literally they would trade lunch. Like someone would say, "Hey, would you like my grapes?" But they wouldn't offer it to me. Knowing I was hungry, knowing I had no food, it was just passed in front of me. And then I'd leave the table and I could hear them all bad mouthing me. And this kind of stuff happened a lot. And I just kept writing down those moments. And now I'm like, I would never, I have so much empathy. I work with, families coming out of homelessness. They have no beds, they have no food. And I am empathetic because I know what that felt like to have somebody brush by me and not give their grapes to me. And so I will always give my grapes. And so that was the lesson,
Right.
you know?
Wow. Well, good for you for being that person, because you could have took that and you could have been bitter. And you could have been like, well, no one helped me out, so I'm not going to help anybody else out. And I love that. I love your heart, because I mean, you are truly, a passionate person that loves to help people, that is out there all the time doing what they can. I mean, this woman didn't, the first time you ever met me was in May. Like, we talked a little bit on Facebook, but it
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't anything. Her and the other Vicky went shopping at this, like, it was hilarious. She comes back. She knew that my husband was a Michigan fan, or is a Michigan fan. So they come in and they had bought him this bib. Now, we tell him it's a cooking apron. That's what we tell him. But it's actually an adult bib. And he was just like, oh, I said, hey babe, the girls bought you this. And he was just like, what? And I'm like, seriously. So he said to say thank you, by the way.
You're
And
welcome. Don't tell them, but that was from a garage sale, right? Like we went,
I know.
none of this was new, like we spent like $1.
But
For
the
a
thing
whole lot of
is,
stuff, like
it's the first time I met you, and okay, I listen to people, but sometimes I'm just in my zone, and my husband actually listens better than I do about certain things. But for you to pick that up on the very first time we meet, and then to buy this bib, for somebody you don't even know, I was just like, who does that?
it
Not
was
too
fun.
many people do
It was really fun. We had a good time with that. It was a lot. That's just it, is that, and that's the thing too, is, you know, we can give each other gifts all the time. And I'm starting to realize the more I can give gifts, and it could be something I say to you, like, Dorothy, what you said to me really impacted me. Or um, I remember when you invited me to be on this show, I was like, okay, that is so amazing that you think of me that way. Because I wasn't thinking of me that way, especially during that time. I was going through one of my moments where I was feeling pretty victimized and kind of going down the wrong path. And I'm like, she sees something in me that I'm missing. And so it's those moments. And when I was coming onto your show yesterday, I said to my daughter, I said, I'm really nervous and it's unstoppable. And she goes, Mom, she goes, here's why I think you're unstoppable. She's like, when you work with the clients at Humble, she's like, you treat them like clients. You treat them the same as anybody else. And I see that all the time with you, that you look at everybody as the same. And I couldn't believe she had said that, because I forgot how much I have learned from being treated so poorly to be kind. Like, really be kind and see people where they're at. And Humble is the place where I work with men who've been incarcerated most of their lives, who are coming out and getting housing. I work with veterans who are homeless, who gave to our country, and to a lot of single women who have families and now finally, after 8 years of being homeless and not living on in their own beds get a bed. And I watch these families just touch the sheets and the comforter and just we all just get really quiet, and there's this moment, and that's when I'm like, this is what life's all about. It's about giving another person your attention. And the one thing I heard that just blew me away was I met this man who had been incarcerated, and he was 40 something years old, and he had been in jail since he was 13.
Wow.
Now, when he went to jail, he was in puberty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was an all male prison. And he just got out, and he just said, he looked down, he said, I'm really sorry, ma'am, but I can't talk to you. And I said, that's okay. And he goes, no, you don't understand. He's like, I've never really talked to a woman. And I was like, wow, wow. And I thought, yeah, like you went to jail when you were a child, and he missed all that, and yeah, what he did was really wrong, but he paid his dues. And he found God in jail, and he found himself, and he started to help others. And then when he got out, somebody helped him to find housing, and then we furnished it for him. And so he had and in his room, he even said, like, he had everything in one room because he didn't know how to live in anything but one room. And I was like, wow, we just take for granted. We don't know what other people are going through, and he came out an amazing human being. Like, he found his voice, he found his strength, he found God. That's way harder than receiving 12 stones. It's way harder.
I guess that's all perspective, right? To a 15-year-old girl, that was like being in a prison, right? So
yeah, that's
we
true.
can't really apples to like, we're not comparing apples to apples, right? His story is different than your story, but I like how that you humbled yourself on that. But I mean, I don't know of any like 15-year-old girl that would receive that in front of everybody. Like, that to me would be like beyond devastating. And so, but and then I get that, but yeah, I that to imagine that young man coming out of prison, after not being associated with any females or having a life, after being in there for so long. Yeah, I can imagine that would just be, I wouldn't know what to say. Maybe just hug him. I don't know.
Well, and that's so what I did was I just didn't say anything because it was his story, right? And I'm finally learning to listen more than to talk. Like, to really listen to somebody. You can't be thinking about what you're going to say. And sometimes we forget to just pause, right? And so for whatever reason, I just paused. And then he looked up, he looked me in the eyes, he held out his hand, and he shook my hand. And then he just pulled me in and embraced me. And we just held each other. And I was crying, he was crying. And it was just, and I could just feel all the years that he just, it was an incredible moment. I felt really blessed that I got to be part of that.
That would be amazing. So do these people need donations to do what you do then? Like, is that how they...
Humble Design takes furniture, they take financial donations. We have some sponsors that help out. And we literally furnish every part of the home. Towels, kitchen, bathroom, sheets, I mean, everything. And we do it, and we do a site visit where we interview the client, and then within a week, we're installing their entire home. And most of the time we do it in a half a day. And we have people that come and volunteer, and it's an incredible operation. They're located throughout the United States, Humble Design. And, and they serve the south side of Chicago, the one that I'm part of. And
that's awesome.
I'll
have to look them up, because that sounds like we could use a place like that here where I live in Windsor, Ontario. So yeah, there's a lot of people that a lot of homelessness that are finally, when, I get a call, I get a reach out every week saying, hey, I've got a new mom getting her apartment. Does anybody have anything to give this girl? She's got nothing. And
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and they're not kidding. They have nothing,
nothing. Right.
you know. Yeah, it's. I remember this one 8-year-old boy had never ever had a bed, you know, and so what we do is we have in at Humble. There's a group of people that volunteer in the art department, and every child gets a name, their name hand painted on something. So if he likes Batman or whatever he likes, we try to do something that's, and we put it in his room. And what happens is they look up and they see their name and they see the bed and they know that it's theirs,
Right.
you know, and it's always like, this is your bed. This is your room. This is your chair. These are your books. Like no one's going to take that away from you. You don't have to leave to go someplace else tomorrow, you know?
Right.
So it's pretty powerful.
That does that get overwhelming at times though? Seeing that all the time?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm a feeler, so I feel a lot.
Right.
So yeah, but it's we're so our team there is so great that if when we need a break, we take the break and we all cover each other, and so there's a lot of support within our own organization of how to handle. And we walk into some rough situations, and sometimes you're in the right frame of mind for it, and other times you walk out and you fall to your knees and you're sobbing. You don't know what you're going to walk into. But what I love is that, because sometimes and David, who I work with, and he's become such a good friend of mine. I said, David, how is this going to work? How's this going to work? How is she going to overcome this? And he said, Vicki, 99% of our clients never go back to homelessness.
Wow, that's an amazing success rate.
I had no idea, right? 99%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So do
And
they
his
have coaching and counseling to go with that? Because I know when you're homeless and then you go to, having something, there is the mind shift, right? So do they supply them with coaching in that?
So they when we have caseworkers that bring the clients to us, and then the caseworker is responsible for the emotional well-being. But every client has my cell phone number, and they can call me anytime, a night, and I'm there for them. So they know that I'm like their friend, and I check in on them every once in a while and just see how they're doing. And we had this one woman who we were able to help, and now she is giving back and she's coming and helping. So we get that as well, where they want to give back, and that I love that part, because it comes full circle.
Right.
So
That kind of reminds me of Habitat for Humanity.
yeah,
Kinda.
yeah, exactly,
Kinda. Yeah,
exactly.
that's awesome. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I'll definitely have to see if we've got a chapter here and see what we can do here.
There's one in Detroit, but I
Oh,
think that's the closest to you of a location that we have.
right.
And I wish we
So,
could be everywhere. We really
yeah,
seem to be in the like big cities, right now. But I know, like rural America, there's lots of places that need this kind of help. So
right.
yeah,
So
and
there you go, folks.
U-Haul
If you
donated
want
their
to,
entire warehouse. We don't. They U-Haul to end their trucks. So
wow,
you can imagine how we could probably not do this without the kind of support that we get from big donors like that. So
absolutely. So
yeah,
yeah, if you're out there looking for a place to, help donate to, definitely look up Humble Designs.
and volunteer, because
And
this
volunteer.
is the
Yeah.
one place you can volunteer where it's actually a lot of fun. I'm not saying other places that you volunteer aren't fun. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant like
No, no, I get it.
it's so much fun. Like you get to get your hands dirty. You're actually you come in, we're like, get to work. You're like, nice to meet you, let's go. There's
Right.
no time we all gather together and we work really hard, and it's physical and mental and spiritual and all of that in a volunteer, and it makes you feel like you're making a difference. So volunteer, drop your furniture off, just come and volunteer. We love, some people actually fly in to volunteer. They
Right.
hear about these organizations that they love, and they come in, they have their vacation, and then they volunteer. it's so cool, you know.
I love that. So is that the premise of why you changed the name to Thrifty Vicki then for your
Well,
your YouTube show?
I had what I realized is nobody really could spell Vidalia. I was like, they're like, "How do you spell Vidalia?" I'm like, "This is not working." And I'm super thrifty. I always have been ever since I was a kid. You find me in a consignment store or a garage sale, or and I love to save money and I love to find bargains. So that it just and I'm so like you. I'm like squirrel, you know. So this channel is like literally all over the place, and it may not be successful because I'm like squirrel. Okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to go do this, and but it's all about community and saving money and gathering together, and so that's why I started Thrifty Vicky. And my friends make fun of me because they're like, "You don't seem thrifty at all." And I'm like, "My whole outfit's from a consignment store, you know, or whatever. Like I am thrifty, you know." I never pay full price for hardly anything. I shouldn't say never. I do, but there are very few things I'll pay full price for, you know? So why not share those tips? I love eBay, you know, so anyway, yeah,
And you even grow your own herbs.
I do. I do.
I mean,
Yeah.
while we were together, she bought her own herbs and she was going back, bringing them home to plant them. I was just like, who does
Oh, yeah.
this?
Yeah. No, yeah.
I unfortunately don't do that. I tried to attempt a garden last year, and yeah, that just did not go well. And my husband we were supposed to do one this year, but we got too busy and we didn't make the garden where we were supposed to. So yeah, that didn't happen.
Well, and mine's in a pot. Like it's a long, you know, whatever outside container gardening. I live in an apartment, so it's on the patio, and that's where I do all my gardening. And I grow a lot of herbs from a garden pot. So it's actually easier than you might think, you know? Because if I did a big garden, I don't know if I could. Well, I do have a big garden I share with friends. We have a community garden in Chicago, so we all share the watering and we walk together and you know, and that's just it too. Is you know, I don't know. 50s is magical because I'm like, I just want to be me. You know, I just want to do what I want to do now. You know, I don't want to do what I think everybody else thinks I should be doing, or, you know, and
Yes, I
so
love that.
yeah, it's time. You know, it's like I've waited a long time to just be myself. And my coach was like, okay, what do you want? What do you really want? I'm like, I really don't know. Like I never gave myself permission to ask myself what I really, really wanted and who I really, really am. And so I finally started journaling, and I I had to do the hard work. I had to journal the crap, the stuff that was really like anchoring me. You know, I was sexually harassed in my 20s in my first job. Like there's so much. When I look back of just hurt and pain. And then when I finally did the work and I finally turned it around, I'm unstoppable. Right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. I
You
mean
are.
that's why you're doing this, because you know, I'm not famous. I'm not a doctor. I'm not, my job doesn't pay a ton of money. Like, and yet I think I can speak by saying I've been through a lot. I've got the mental fortitude now to handle it. And I'm me. And now I can start to say who I want to be because I did the hard work, right?
Right. Our friend Jeff here is tuning in, and he says, except for his lawn, he cannot keep any plants alive. So respect, absolutely. I'm with you there, Jeff. Jeff is one of my veterans as well. If I was to show, I have beautiful pots of flowers at the beginning of the season. They're across from me, looking like they're sad, like they're almost dead. I don't know how to revive them. You need to come to Canada and help me out, Vicky.
I would love
I've
to.
I've got half dead flowers for my birthday behind me. I just like, but I don't get flowers. Okay, so it's funny because I was just thinking around my birthday was a couple weeks ago. So when my dad passed away last September, I had 5 or 6 arrangements in my house. We didn't do the traditional funeral home thing. So I had all my amazing friends and family just dropped off flowers. So I'm like, this place looks like a funeral home. And I loved it. I was greatly appreciated. Don't get me
Right.
wrong, but I was kind of feeling overwhelmed, right?
Right.
So almost a year later, my husband buys me flowers for my birthday, and then some friends sent me an arrangement, and I'm like, oh, okay, I like them now. I like them back. I always said that when I have my own office in because I have visions of like a Trump Tower is going to be Kimberly in my office. So
Ooh.
when we walk in, not only is there going to be a beautiful arrangement of flowers when you walk into the reception, but each of our offices have to have a thing of flowers. That's just has to be
Aw,
what our thing is,
that's so
you know.
nice.
And then our studio, when we have our official studio
Yeah.
instead of my bedroom, my spare bedroom, you know, this is
Yeah.
all envisioning. And it's funny when you said you never envisioned or really dreamt about what you wanted. And you're not the first person that I heard that. I am the
Mhm.
biggest dreamer, like that I know. Like I can sit here and daydream all along. Executing the plan is not my strong suit. I
Yeah.
can dream though.
Yeah.
And but my husband, like I said, what would you like to do? Like, what are some of your goals? What do you want to dream about? And he's just like, I don't know. Growing up, it was never something that they did. And I was just like,
Right.
really? Or even encouraged or anything like that. And I'm just like, hmm, okay. But
Yeah.
so I'm getting used to that.
Yeah. And keep asking him, right?
Yeah.
Because, that's it, when you can actually just, like, let the guard down and start to think, okay, what are my dreams? Like, wow, then the doors just sort of open, right? And opportunities come. And speaking of that, the door opened, and I'm now I'm training to become a life coach. And honestly, up until I did this work that I did, I didn't feel like I was worthy of ever coaching anybody else. And now I can't wait to coach. And I've two more certifications that I want to do that I'm doing in August, and then I'm good to go, and I'm ready. I because I know now I know how to do it for myself,
Mhm.
and it feels really good to wake up and actually be like, I got this. Where I used to wake up and I was like, oh, it's going to be a dreadful day and this and that. And, oh, and this happened to me and she doesn't like me and she didn't, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like, whatevs,
I
let's
would
just
never have
go.
thought about that. I would
Yeah.
never have thought that that was you ever in
No,
a million
Heidi,
years.
for most of my life, because you get whittled down and whittled down and whittled down and whittled down
Yeah.
and told that you're not okay and told that you don't fit in. And then you start to believe it until somebody tells you it's not true. And that person that tells you it's not true is you.
Mhm.
It's the only one that can tell you that. I can tell you till you're blue in the face, but until I believe it, and it took me 50 something years to finally believe that I was worthy and that I was strong and that I could do it. And so I want to give that back, you
Yeah.
know?
I love that. And it's funny because on the weekend, we went and played some basketball. So on the way back, my husband took the scenic route back, which was absolutely amazing. He knows I love the water,
Mm,
and we don't
yeah.
live that far from the Detroit River. So took the scenic route back down Riverside Drive. And like Riverside Drive, as you can imagine, is where like the mansions are, the
Yeah.
houses that everybody dreams of living in. So all I said out of the blue was, "Okay, guys, which house do you want? Which house are we buying?"
Aw.
And I expected, I don't know, both of them, my stepson and my husband both. No, I want this one. No, I want this one. One had a tennis court and a a
Aw.
basketball set because now my son's in basketball. So, oh yeah, I want that one, Daya, because it has both. And I was just like, I was thrilled. I was like in the truck beaming, and they had
Really?
no idea why I was beaming. I was like, yes, we finally have dreamers. They're
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and when you become a dreamer, you find more dreamers, right? Like, because your world just opens up, it's pretty cool.
Exactly. Jeff says, I believe in you are some of the most powerful words you can tell yourself, and then give that away and tell others that you believe in them as well. It's magic.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is.
And Jeff is really good at that because he is part of Angels 14, which that's what they do. They empower other veterans
Ah,
and
nice.
veteran allies. So thanks, Jeff, for being here. All right, so now it comes to the other part of our show. I can't believe it's been 45 minutes
I know
already.
that went by so fast. I survived.
You survived. You thrived, Miss Vicki.
I
You
thrived.
thrived. So I'm going to bring to the stage Kimberly and her
Oh,
amazing guests. Hello. Hold on, I'm going to change it.
I'm
Oh,
going to take my glasses off for this one. Oh.
I'm going to change the screen. I don't like the screen. Bear with me. There we go. That's what I wanted. All right. Welcome, Kimberly. Oops. What happened? Somebody
Stand
fire
by.
me. Get us
Stand
a
by.
producer.
No, they're not
Get
going
us
to
a
fire you.
producer. There we go.
Dorothy, are you having location envy like I am right now?
Kind of, sort of.
Like, what the heck?
Well, you know, that's my hard job, to be the roving reporter for the show.
Yeah, this sounds really
So,
brutal for you.
I know you're all feeling really sorry for me right now.
Yeah, no.
Hey, Vicki, you know, just really, before we really go into the fundamentals, just thank you. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for the path that you've let God lead you on. And I want you to really hear that you're in great company, locating this part of yourself in your 50s. And you know, I invite you to Google others who, you know, open and crack the shell in their 50s. You know, Ray Kroc, Mary Kay, you know, unknowns, complete unknowns. Okay. And you know, I always pray during the show. And what was delivered to me in that conversation was, you know, we think like it took us so long, right? And Dorothy and I talk about this all the time. It's like, you know, the funniest joke on the planet is our plans, right? Versus God's divine appointments. And my invitation is for you to get that you were right on time. It didn't take you a long time. And the people that you get to mission to are people in their 50s and above.
Yeah.
Which at this time in our history, you know, the discernment, the wisdom, the love, right, that lives in 50 and up is miraculous. And for them to get to have you shepherd them into the home of their full power and self-expression, nobody better. You've been training on that, working with the homeless
Yeah.
all this time. So you're right on time. That's my invitation
Thank
for
you.
you to receive that.
It's interesting because about 2 weeks ago, I received an email from a group of women in their 50s that are starting to dive into some Bible study. And it's something that I've never really done, except for when I was a child, I did CCD. And it's interesting that when you start to just sit and be at peace, how much the doors open.
Yeah.
And forgive. Like I forgive the person that gave me the flowers. I forgive the people at the lunchroom table that didn't share, because they gave me the strength of empathy and kindness and community, you know,
Yep.
because they wouldn't let me in, and I'll never not let somebody else in. You know, it's a blessing when you can, like you were saying, do that deep dive and get in there, you know.
Yep. Yeah. Really beautiful. Really, I'm so excited for our audience and, you know, everyone that's going to get to access this show and who you are for the world.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And so with that, we will step right into the fundamentals. I am super excited to introduce everybody to Chris, who is tonight's sponsor. And hello, lovely Lake Huron in Cedarville, Michigan.
Cedarville, Michigan. Yeah,
Cedarville, Michigan.
the Les Chenaux Islands, French for the channels.
Yes. Yes. And with that, Chris, what would you like to share with everyone?
Wow, what an amazing story. It just seems like God has you exactly where He created you to be right now, and really enjoyed listening to the wonderful work and the self-discovery that you've had. That's amazing. As far as what I have to share, I'm just excited to be on the show and to be here with Kimberly and just spending time with her. We got to take a pontoon boat ride to go get coffee this morning and a little coffee. on the water.
I know. Feel sorry for me.
Like
Had some great time, kind of being in awe. The Bible says that the firmament declares the glory of God, and we are just in an area we're just surrounded by nature. And that's always been a big thing for me in my life, to get grounded and to just feel God's presence in natural settings. And that's something I get to share here at Hills Point Resort with people that maybe haven't experienced a rustic cabin from the 1930s, or a boat ride through 35 islands on the shores of Lake Huron, and then you're cruising through all these small waterways, and you open up to this vast expanse of Lake Huron, and there's just nothing there. It's just water for as far as you can see, silence, solitude, and you can literally feel just God's presence, like he's just around you in the nothingness. And I think that we all hit like little spots in our lives where we feel alone. And the important thing, I guess, that I try to talk to people about is that we're never alone. We are never alone. God uniquely created us with every experience, positive or negative, that makes the people that we are today, whether it's 53 years later or 20 years later. It's just one of those things that God ordains all these things in our life. And what I heard you talking about this evening was perspective. How do you change that from being a victim to being an overcomer? And I think that some of the happiest people that I've met in life are ones that have low expectations, maybe lower expectations of themselves and lower expectations of other people. And let me kind of define that and put that into a positive way. I think people with high expectations of themselves can be really hard on themselves and don't exemplify the self-love that we need to have when you're not meeting your own expectations. I tell people that are often going through difficult times, and I meet a lot of people that are here at the resort that are just trying to get away from something. And I let them know that the thing that causes them pain in life, that causes them to be angry, that causes them to be depressed, upset, are typically their unmet expectations. And when somebody starts to realize that the only thing in life that can cause you to be sad, depressed, angry, mad, murderous are unmet expectations, and then they realize that they set their own expectations, then they can realize that, oh my gosh, I can control these emotions that I'm going to be going through, because it's not about that other person and what that other person did to me. It's about what I expected that other person was going to do to me that they didn't do. And that was the problem. I think about your story about the stems and just receiving stems. Maybe you expected something different, but the reason it was so devastating was because you had this expectation that, there was this relationship and there was something there. And then it was very clear that it did not exist. And what a blessing that was in your life to then meet your husband, Sean, so in such little time after that. But anyhow, I could talk all day about just the God and just how he has done things in my life and helped me to learn so many things through my career, and now in my job as a host here at Hills Point Resort. I'm just, every day is I'm in awe. I have a little rule in life where I don't do it unless it's fun. And really that is about perspective, right? And so I have this perspective that I won't do it unless it's fun. And sometimes I have to plunge the toilet. But you know what? To me, it's fun because I'm serving others and I'm doing what God would have to do in that moment.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of the space I live in now, in my new life after being in corporate America for so long, and just, loving on people and helping them to, I guess, just get to see Jesus through the conversation that we have here as we entertain.
Yes, and no surprise, Dorothy. Our sponsors tend to lean towards modest. So, but I think everybody gets the idea that this isn't just a resort. Like, this is truly a Narnia. This is truly a magical place for people to come and reconnect with, and how perfect, because this always happens, right? This is not our show, it's the Holy Spirit's show, right? But where people can actually come and connect with Vicki, the very inner child you spoke of, that you've just recently reconnected with in your 50s, right?
Yeah.
So really, like, come all to this resort. It is can you hear the way it's calling you?
It's like right on cue. They started to roll in.
Really, like, come play with us. We want you to come play with us. Okay. So really, and we'll make sure everybody has all of, the information. And, again, Chris referenced that he's a host, and I get it. I got that you're a steward of God, and you're the host, and this is God's resort. Like, really, this guy is hands-on ownership, and his heart is huge, and his background is even bigger. So you're going to come for the experience, but you're going to get so much more. I promise.
Awesome.
And with that, who would like to share their fundamentals first? Vicki?
You go.
Wants me to go.
She wants you to go.
Okay, so we had
three fundamentals.
things.
Yep. 3 things that you would like. If nobody was going to talk to you tomorrow, what would you want them to be left with so that their life would be fun and simple? Top 3 things.
Top 3 things for fun. Well, I think that I kind of touched on it a little bit ago, but just having a perspective that anything that you do can be fun. And it's just a matter of having that mindset that, okay, I have to do this thing, and it seems like maybe nobody else wants to do it, but I'm going to make it fun. It's kind of like the Huck Finn thing, like painting the fence,
Mm-hmm.
I have work to do, but we're going to make it fun. We're going to make it a game, or we're going to sing a song, and just try to make everything that you do fun. It's really just a choice. Happiness boils down to just a choice. Just choose it to be happy. It's something that I talk to my children about. And it's something that really means a lot to me. And I think that would be the fundamental number 1, is just choose to have fun. Number 2, I think I'll send this one out to parents, and it's engaging children in creating vision for their lives. I know so many parents that have tried so hard to do so many things for their kids. But even the stories that Kimberly had today, and kayaking, and letting children experience something where they have an opportunity to fail, but giving them perspective and giving them vision, that can be such a fun thing to just watch how a child is going to solve a problem. And I get really excited about that, being a parent, and then just being here at the resort and working with children. I got a wonderful letter the other day from the Abbott family from New York City, and little Evie wrote and said, "Thank you for letting me," they live in an apartment in New York City, right? Thanks for letting me drive the tractor and the boat and the 4-wheeler. And she was just like so excited that she got to do things that she would have never have gotten to done in New York City, right?
That's awesome.
So fundamental number 3, just know that God loves you, and that there are so many people in this world that love you, and the world is not a better place without you. You being here makes the world a better place, and that's so important. There's so many people that are struggling with just different just the mental part of things in dealing with post-COVID, and just the world is a different place, but it needs you. It needs your input. It needs your influence, and that's what makes everything fun, is that you're here, and that people love you and care for you and want the best for you.
Love it. What I heard in that last one is, the canvas isn't complete without everyone's signature.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
All right, Vicki, your turn.
Well, I'm shifting mine a little bit from when I originally was thinking about this.
That's perfect, because you're being led to. So please do.
It's I think is it Fried Green Tomatoes, the movie, where Kathy Bates is in her car and she smashes into the teenagers that took her spot, right? And she says, "Tawanda!" And so what I love about that moment in the movie is that she went from a victim to strength. And now she probably shouldn't have smashed into somebody's car. And the girls are like, what are you doing? You can't do it. She's like, honey, I have more insurance than you do. And, you know, it's just that moment of like, be Tawanda. You know, do you remember that scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when I'm like in a moment, I'll be like, Tawanda, and I'll do something that I might be afraid to do, or I might not, and I just do it, you know, like
Yes.
somebody else's car, whatever. Listen more than you talk. Listen more than you talk. I think that's so important. It's something I've had to really work on because I'm already thinking. A lot of my little nephews are coming back, so they're going to hear a lot of noise. But
It's perfect. The children
I know,
are
right?
coming.
I
It's
should have them
at
come
the
in so
end of the
they're so
call.
cute.
Yes.
So listen more than you talk, and then just be kind. Just be kind. You know, when someone's rude to you, it might be that they're having a really, really bad day, and that you have a choice in that moment to be rude back or to be kind. Kind, because it can make all the difference in the world.
Perfect. And Dorothy, as always, the two seal each other. So
Yes.
I know, it's so good. Back to you, Dorothy.
Well, and
Don't
that's
feel
why.
bad for us when we go back to this.
Yeah.
I'll behave. Anyways, that's why you had us yell. That's
Tawanda!
why you had us Tawanda at the next camp.
Tawanda!
That's why you had us do that. Now I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I get it. All right. Amazing. Well, as always, we want to thank our guests in our comments. And for those of you that are going to watch this on the replay, we thank you for being here. We thank our amazing guests that are on the show tonight, that sharing their stories. Thank you so much, Vicki and Chris, for being part of our family. So now you're stuck with us for the rest of your life. And this is how life's changed. So this is just the beginning, because once you're on our show, things happen. And I'm not kidding. It does at the time. So with that, if you would like to be a guest on our show or be a sponsor on our show, definitely comment in the comments or private message myself or Kimberly. We'll get you on. And with that, we just want to make sure that you have an unstoppable day, and we'll see you same time, same channel next week. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Tawanda!
Tawanda!